Over the last couple of months, we've been asking all of our customers, have you ever bought a better for you candy before? Better for you or low sugar, however they want to define that. The results are truly wild. 70% of our customers have never bought another better for you brand before, which is like 100% what we set out to do, and why we built the brand was like, hey, I think there's a lot of people that want a better option but aren't attracted to the existing products out there. And so to see that actually play out in the data and all that has been really cool. It sets a higher bar for us in terms of the product. We are very excited to keep pushing this category forward, and I think we're getting really close there.
Content from real people equals instant credibility for your brand. Consumers today crave real connections with real people, and they're guarded about who they'll trust. Highly polished, branded content simply doesn't cut it anymore. Let MiniSocial build a network of powerful micro-influencers around your brand who all know and love your products. They'll create something compelling that resonates with their audience and deliver it directly to you for use across all your marketing channels. Yeah, that includes ads. Meet millennials and Gen Zers where they're already hanging out, in the feeds of their favorite influencers, and get started with MiniSocial. Michael, welcome to the D2C podcast. I feel like this has been a long time coming. I think I saw either a LinkedIn post or a Twitter post a year and a half ago or so now, and I just saw your branding, saw that you were making sour candies, which are like what I'm fully addicted to. Welcome to the D2C podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time.
Why don't you start with why you built Rotten, and we'll go into the little bit of the CPG world with you.
Yeah. So I was I think like a lot of other kids, candy addicted, candy obsessed, like you, loved sour gummies, huge fan of, all the products from Trolley. And, as I started getting older, got a lot more interested in health and fitness, and like a lot of other Americans, started trying to reduce the sugar that I was eating in my diet. And that led me to a lot of the better for you gummy options out there. So there was a range at that point from, sugar-free options to low sugar options. And largely I kind of just came away from the experience unimpressed. I didn't feel like the products really nailed it in terms of the taste and that experience. And I think I especially also felt that the branding and product positioning really didn't fit what I was looking for. So, I was someone who wanted a better option, but didn't want to feel like I was dieting when I was eating candy. And a lot of the kind of options on the market at that point were really positioned as diet foods. They looked like health foods. They were really kind of in this branding group of this health and wellness movement. And that just kind of made me feel lame when I was eating a candy that looked like that. That's really how Rotten was born. And we really built the brand off of these 90s kind of gross out culture references. So things like creepy crawlers and Garbage Pail Kids and Nickelodeon slime and a lot of this like fun, nostalgic stuff, and honestly, just the exact opposite of what you would imagine when you think of a product that is a better for you option.
Think about Smart Sweets, I guess. They're they were the ones that really burst on the scene in a lot of ways, and they're like they're a $1 billion company at this point. Is that right?
They sold for around like $350 million back in 2019, I think.
And it's funny, my daughter will eat those kind of begrudgingly, because it's like they're like a mirage in a way. They have that sour, they give you like a sour pucker, but then it's just they just sort of disappear into like nothingness. They're not really anything. So I'm curious, like I'm a big fan of better for you products that don't go all the way, that are just allowing you to make a better choice but still taste and feel like the products they may be replacing. And I feel like yours does a great job of that. Were you ever tempted to go like zero sugar or like hyper low sugar rather than your value proposition, which is still, I believe, like 60% less sugar?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think, from the outset, we knew, hey, we're not going to try to compete on the least amount of sugar or the cleanest label. At the end of the day, this is candy. People do want a better option, but it just needs to taste absolutely delicious. Otherwise, why are you eating it? And I knew that, and I think other founders can probably relate, or people who have developed CPG products. Is once you get into development, it's hard not to be tempted to do it all, or you hear someone has some preference, and so you think you need to do that, and you need to serve everyone. And so I think it was important for us to stay laser focused on a couple, development parameters that we had set from the beginning, and beyond that, say, you know what, those people, they're being served by a different company. Like, we have to kind of keep our target customer in mind throughout the development. And so I think we did that, and we can get into then kind of going into a reformulation and what we've learned from being on the market, but it's been really interesting.
Well, let's talk. I want to talk about the brand as well, but let's talk first about the product. Talk about V1, the one that I have demolished dozens of bags of. Talk about the challenges of getting this product to market.
Yeah, so the gummy category, not just candy, but supplements, CBD, THC, and then also candy, just absolutely exploded, kind of in the years leading up to COVID, and then during COVID. And, the pandemic also made things much slower on the manufacturing side. And so what ended up happening in the market is that almost all of the manufacturing capacity was taken up. And so it was really hard to find manufacturing partners that wanted to work with small startups with, complex custom formulas. And so that was one reason, that made it so challenging for us to bring the product to market. We ended up working with a couple different manufacturers to do that, went through 3 or 4 different pilot trials, which are costly and time intensive and all that. So, it was definitely a challenge bringing the product to market. We started the brand as a Kickstarter campaign. And what that let us do was, we had a group of a few hundred people who, were some of our earliest supporters. They believed in the brand, never had tasted the product, but just like believed in our positioning and what we stood for. And so we had that kind of awesome group of people to use as feedback tasters, testers throughout the process, and continue iterating on the product leading up to our launch.
One of the things I've learned in learning about your product and meeting with you is the secret of Allulose as a product. It was funny. My dad worked in food additives growing up. He doesn't remember this, but he used to tell me, like, beware of aspartame. He was always just like, with aspartame, he used to tell me to don't like chew gum and try to write an essay or an exam, because it's like, it does something to your brainwaves. I don't know if that was pseudoscience or what, but I've always been hesitant about getting something for nothing, essentially, when you're taking one of these sweeteners. These chemical sweeteners. So talk about how you achieve the gummies like sensation while still being so reduced in sugar.
This is another area where it ended up being extremely helpful that we were all about creating a better for you product, but not trying to create a health food. Still embracing that this was candy and it was going to have a little bit of sugar, and that's okay. That was important because it's allowed us to use the other ingredients that we brought in. So like you mentioned, we replaced some of the sugar with allulose, which is a natural sweetener. It's a type of sugar that's found in things like figs and raisins and molasses, but your body doesn't process it like a sugar. So it's considered low glycemic. It doesn't spike your, blood sugar. So we use some of that. And then, we also use some prebiotic dietary fiber also. The good thing is any ingredient in excess is going to make you feel like crap. Too much sugar, you feel like crap. Too much fiber, you feel like crap. Too much allulose, you feel like crap. And so the nice thing about us, designing something to kind of be in this better for you space is that we're not using an extreme amount of any of them to where you're not going to feel good. And so that was super important for us. And I think just, allulose in general is pretty amazing ingredient. I think, a lot of people who have tasted sweeteners, some of these alternative sweeteners before, whether it's, the aspartame or sucralose, which are, artificial sweeteners, like you mentioned, and things that we kind of from the beginning said we're not going to use in our product. even to some of the other natural sweeteners like a monk fruit or a stevia, there can be weird tastes. People don't like them. And, we did a lot of testing on all those. And I think allulose is a really nice sweetener without that kind of strange aftertaste.
And it gives you the bulk, like whereas with like the powdered sweeteners, there's just barely there, and they're not going to contribute to the texture in any way. Whereas allulose, you can get it's crystallized, right? So it kind of comes in that chunky crystal thing, which is what you kind of expect on candy a little bit.
Yeah, look at you. You know your food science.
I know my food science. That's funny. I was talking with Jody from Sundays, so I think I'm going to have on the pod soon as well. And you guys kind of all connect in a lot of ways, right? There's a lot of like camaraderie and like you guys kind of help each other back and forth. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Jody's been awesome, super fun guy, and great product. And similar story in terms of challenge getting to market around manufacturing and multiple trials and just working to really nail the product.
So let's talk about that, because when I tasted the product, it nailed it for me. It was like the fruit flavors that you chose were really representative. They tasted like mango and strawberry. They were great. They to me had a great mouthfeel. They had the sourness I was looking for. So talk about getting to that, which was a lot of hard work. And then what led you to this idea that you need to reformulate?
I think the most helpful way that I've been able to frame it is it's not about good and bad. So the story is not Rotten 1.0 was bad and now we need Rotten 2.0. It's about meeting and exceeding the expectations that our customer has when they buy our product. And so I agree. Like, I think Rotten 1.0 was amazing. That's why we launched it. I loved it. Hundreds of people loved it. But what we found is since being in market, the customer we're attracting is like a super fan of gummy worms. And if you're a super fan of the classic gummy worm, then you're going to be disappointed by our texture because it's not what you expected. Similarly, very interestingly, is I agree. I think the sourness level on our sour worms before was great. It was a little bit sour, but still mild, like you could eat it. That said, if you look at our packaging, our branding, it's very over the top, a little bit extreme, like a little bit into the kind of like Warheads realm. And so you have a customer who buys our product thinking that the flavor experience, the sourness experience is going to be extreme and match what the packaging looks like. And they were disappointed when it didn't. And so, again, I think it's the reformulation and move to Rotten 2.0 is, we did make some other tweaks that I think are just general improvements and making things stronger. But those other two pieces about the texture and the sourness level were really around, like, how can we meet and exceed the expectations our customers have when they're buying this? And so that's what we've done.
I was talking with Jody about it, and he was telling me a little bit about this. He said that the worms they give fruit snack versus gummy worm, which is like gummy worms have that really almost translucent, really sort of clear, smooth flavor. So talk about how you got to that level. Like, was it a challenge to reformulate to make them even more gummy worm, or was it simple things?
Yeah, it was challenging to get the exact texture that we wanted. I will say, so one of the other reasons beyond manufacturing that it took us so long to bring the first product to market was formulation. And we did have a texture that we set out to create that was more of that classic gummy worm texture, and we ran into formulation challenges. And in an effort to bring the product to market, we decided to just change the kind of formula. And in the background had still been working on, R&D to get that classic gummy worm texture. And so we kind of ended up just having a breakthrough there and figured it out. And so we're able to move forward. And I think the timing kind of all just worked out because we'd been hearing, from customers for Rotten 1.0 that they were looking for that more classic gummy texture.
And then when you it's funny, yeah, I was actually just looking at some of the YouTube reviews of the product that have kind of come out in the past few months. And there is that category of people that like wants to try, the super sour thing. And I'm just looking at your shirt crest there of the maggots in the wound, so I can see how people might have be looking for that extreme experience a little bit. Was it a matter for the sourness of just like amping up the ingredient that you used, or did you have to change the formulation to get it even more sour?
A combination. So this is one thing I learned during our initial R&D is that, there's several different acids you can use to like impart sourness, and they actually each have a totally different taste profile. And, some have more of like an apple sourness versus a lemon sourness, and some hit you really strong right at the beginning and then fade away, whereas others kind of, it's more of a steady hit of sourness and then lasts for a while after. So what we ended up doing for Rotten 2.0 was a combination of, just increasing the changing around the ratio, so using more acid for more sourness, but also changing around kind of the acids we were using and the amounts, so that it would kind of impart and hit in the right way.
And you have the sour version and the non-sour version. Does sour sell better?
Sour definitely sells better. And I do think especially with this reformulation, that the original product is much, much stronger. Like I actually love eating the originals now. It's funny, like eating the sours is like, for sure, I feel like I'm eating candy and I'm like, this is an indulgent like treat. When I eat our originals, I feel much better just like having it as an afternoon snack, and like it doesn't feel like crazy overly sweet and like a dessert.
So talk about your go-to market strategy. Even like it's got to be a challenge when you go to market and then sort of like I'm sure you got a lot of good feedback, a lot of positive feedback, but you probably saw this persistent theme that people were their expectations weren't quite being met. Talk about your initial go-to-market strategy and how it's shifting with this reformulation do-over kind of deal.
Yeah, so we have a couple very, very exciting new kind of go-to-market strategies that we're rolling out with Rotten 2.0. One of which is a new content series that we've been shooting over the last few months that we're about to debut, called Grubs, Gizzards, and Goo. And this kind of, the game show is reminiscent of, Fear Factor and 90s Nickelodeon reality shows. And it's all man on the street style content. So we have our fictional brand founder, Dr. Rotten, go out in Venice Beach, buckets filled with gross things. There are prizes. One of the prizes is $50, and we go get people to come play the game and interact with us. And if you've ever been to Venice Beach, you know that there are some characters out there. So it's very fun. And that whole show has been the brainchild of us thinking, if our brand, or even let's say if Dr. Rotten had the goal of becoming a YouTube creator, what content would he or they make? What would that look like? And this game show really came out of that. And I think our ability to make compelling content that doesn't constantly feel incredibly salesy is going to be a core competency for us, and a way that we can stand out and continue to win in a super crowded market. The other piece that we are doing with this new go-to-market is debuting what's kind of like a free trial program, which has been done in kind of a bunch of categories, like, razors. So like with Harry's, you can sign up, your first razor's free, or you just pay for shipping, and then you're, with that, you're subscribed for future shipments. So we're going to test and trial something similar where you get, 2 free bags of our candy and you're signed up for a subscription. And, during that free trial process, obviously cancel, modify, skip your subscription. It's not about, locking people into anything. But I think what I've realized is, as much as it's great to, sit behind the computer and say, here's what we need the AOV to be, to make sense and to have this be profitable, when you reframe it and think about it from the, customer's perspective, they're not used to buying candy online. Most people have very personal preferences when it comes to food items, especially candy. Like, we all love different candies. It doesn't mean one's bad and one's good. You want to be able to try something before you're committed to buying a lot of it. And so what we've had to do is figure out, great, how can we deliver on that? That makes sense. Like, I would want that too as a customer. How can we deliver on that, in a way that also makes sense for us as a business and, like running paid spend and all that. And so I'm very excited about this free trial program and the ability for that to both deliver results for us, but also deliver a way for customers to like try us in a super, super low stakes way.
Super cool. So you're starting D2C basically with this go to market. Do you have stores as well? Do you have the retail doors as well?
Yeah, so that's kind of our new D2C strategy. In terms of retail, we launched into 50 Hy-Vee stores, which is a Midwest grocery chain, a few months ago, and they've expanded us to 150. We're doing well there. We're expanding there. Going to be testing out some new, shipper display and other promo things with them. And then this month, we are also launching into Zoomies, which is a skate apparel retailer.
Yeah.
So we're going into around 250 Zoomies stores. And this is really our test into what's called like the alt channel. And we're very excited about that channel. There's a lot of retailers like Zoomies that look like really great fits for our brand, just aesthetically and, target customer wise. And the super nice thing about, our category in candy is I think it has like the highest distribution of any food category. So, think of any retail store you can possibly imagine, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to sell candy there. FedEx, they sell candy. Best Buy, they sell candy. Your corner store, they sell candy. So it's and all these retailers, these apparel retailers, they also all sell candy at checkout. It's a super easy item to add. A lot of them are already selling it, and so we're excited to have this test with Zoomies, see how that performs, and then kind of grow from there.
That's super cool. I want to talk about, it was funny, we talked about your content series back when we did our pre-interview, and I think the man on the street thing is such a huge opportunity for everyone. It sounds like you got a really good angle kind of going into it. You mentioned not being salesy, but how does the product play into the content in a way that people then become more aware of the product through this interesting gross out content?
I think it's a great question, and it's a balance, right? Because don't want to be too salesy also, but at the same time, we're, an early young brand that can't afford to spend our entire marketing budget on brand awareness. So for us, the balance is while we shoot it, we like shoot content with all of the contestants trying our candy and getting their reactions. And so there's going to be content that is more product focused that also still kind of ties into the game. And so it'll be a mix. And then the other piece with all of this is, with the rise of these like social shopping platforms, so TikTok Shop, and, you can even, check out on Instagram and Facebook now, is it's much easier for us to have videos that aren't directly like featuring the packaging and having someone try it, but still tag our product in it and have that video still drive traffic to our shop page on those channels. And so, again, I think it's just about having a variety. So we're going to have some videos that hopefully go viral and don't feature the product at all and probably don't lead to a ton of sales. And then we'll probably have some videos that feature the product heavily, don't go as viral, but lead to a lot more sales. And I think it's just figuring out the balance there.
And are you going to launch those across all social video channels, YouTube, shorts and reels and TikTok as well?
Yeah. So we are going to be posting, on shorts, reels, and TikTok. And I think we will, over time, develop a slightly different strategy for each, but the kind of source content will end up on all of them.
And when does it launch?
That will be launching in the next 2 weeks.
Oh, super exciting. So by the time this interview is live, actually, Dr. Rotten will be upon the world.
Yeah, go check it out. And if you want to play, just, go to Venice Beach.
Super cool. And then, just lively crowd there, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And then just back to the funnel with the free packages first. That's when is that going to launch?
We're targeting to have that live for the launch of Rotten 2.0, which is April 16th.
First one's free, right? I think you don't want to lean into that too much, but I think a lot of the people who you're marketing to have that sort of like that mentality in their brain. Who is your core target audience? Is it people like us in our 30s and 40s who still like, who want the sour candy? Or is it parents that are making better for you choices for their kids? Well, who is your core audience, do you think?
We've seen a really good mix between the millennial demographic who sees our branding. Maybe they're super nostalgic for the references they see in the brand. They're nostalgic for those times for their childhood. A lot of those people also have young kids. And so they're, that's on their mind too, buying for themselves, but also their kids can have this because it's better. So that's kind of one main group. And then the other group, is more of this like 16 to 25-year-old group that just likes the aesthetic. It feels cool in a way that a lot of, again, other brands feel way more traditional health and wellness, and that doesn't resonate or vibe with a lot of these customers. Over the last couple of months, we've actually started collecting this data post-purchase, but we've been asking all of our customers, have you ever bought a better for you candy before? Better for you or low sugar, like however they want to define that. The results are truly wild. So 70% of our customers have never bought another better for you brand before, which is like 100% what we set out to do, and why we built the brand was like, hey, I think there's a lot of people that want a better option but aren't attracted to the existing products out there. And so to see that actually play out in the data and all that has been really cool. The only other thing I'll add on that is it sets a higher bar for us in terms of the product. And we are very excited to like keep pushing this category forward on R&D. And Eric, I'm excited for you to try the new ones. I know you loved the old ones. I think you're going to love the new ones even more. And I think it's crazy how close or even better we've gotten on this last batch to traditional candy. And so because our customer is not someone who's only buying better for you food and snack brands, and so they're used to products not tasting as good as the full sugar conventional competitors, it just means we have a higher bar for how ours has to taste, and I think we're getting really close there.
And I think with your aesthetic and with you just saying that, that you have that younger audience of people who are buying it because it looks cool and fits their vibe kind of thing, it reminds me of like the tattoos that I used to get in my Hostess chips. Or like I can see apparel or like just things that like if you buy a box, you get a button or something like that. Because I could feel people wanting to extend the aesthetic from candy into their clothes, into stickers, into tattoos, things like that. Have you thought of that?
Yep. You're asking all the great questions. So that's actually another part of our go-to-market strategy that I somewhat missed, is we're trying to get way more creative with how we're like offering intro bundles. So like, how can we make it way more exciting for you to come in and buy our candy? And the way we're doing that is, what if we created like limited edition vintage lunch boxes? Again, like very brand relevant merch items that feel useful for the candy as well, and are just more entry points into the brand. And those are limited edition collectibles, and there are multiple colors, and so people are going to want every single colorway. And so how can we keep using the brand and there's such rich source material from a lot of these 90s references, and so like, how can we leverage those to create things and attract people into this brand that if we were just saying, here's our gummy worms and here's why they're better, they wouldn't be interested. But if they see this sick lunchbox and they're also going to get to try the worms, then they're into it.
It gives Liquid Death, right? With Liquid Death coming into a category, I would just ask, like, because Liquid Death is just every month they're rolling out like a new collab, their new like goth makeup one with ELF Cosmetics. How has Liquid Death like inspired your approach to this brand?
So I love Liquid Death. I was a super early fan of Liquid Death. I'm here in LA, so got to see a lot of that early growth as they, started having more distribution here, and then obviously they're everywhere now. They inspired me from kind of like the whole core brand thesis around, hey, there are all these water brands. They're all kind of positioned in a really similar way. They feel, again, very health and wellness, but there's a lot of people who like want plain water that's healthy. They want something that's sustainable. They want it marketed in a different way. And so we kind of, we're definitely very inspired also by that kind of thinking. I think one interesting thing is, given how massive Liquid Death is today and, why they have such widespread distribution, I was not expecting us to have some of the negative response to our brand that we've had from retailers. And I know Liquid Death went through this. I know there were a lot of retailers who wouldn't even take the product until like the last year, right as they're hitting $1 billion valuation, so they're massive. And it took some of these retailers that long to finally come around and say, hey, people actually want this. We can have this in our store. I was kind of under the impression that Liquid Death would have paved the way for us and they would all get it now. And, that hasn't been the case. And we've had conversations with some retail partners that don't get what we're doing. And they see that we don't look like all the other, brands in our better for you category. And that's confusing to them. That's obviously disheartening to hear, but it also is a reminder that like what we're doing is still new and interesting because it's not readily apparent to everyone.
And it's a hurdle to overcome, but it'll be, if you stick with it and you break through, it'll be a badge of honor, and it'll be something that you've overcome, something that like, because I think brands are the ones that make you make a choice on them, not the brands that just like, oh, another Aquafina or another Smart Sweets or whatever with little teddy bears on it, right? If a brand kind of asserts itself and makes you make that decision, it'll be stronger for it in the long run, especially when these retailers come around to it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Very cool. What about Amazon? I was curious. I was talking with Jody at Sundays, and Amazon has been such a huge growth engine for them in the beginning. Are you guys on Amazon as well?
Yeah, we launched on our Amazon story has been a bunch of missteps, unfortunately. So launched on Amazon and then kind of quickly went out of stock as we were reformulating and had limited inventory. And so had to restrict Amazon. And then now we're trying to get kind of back up and running and get new inventory to them. So we've been out of stock for a while, but I think Amazon's great. We have a kind of an entry point share size bag that we're going to retail for $9.99, and Amazon makes it very cost effective to sell sub $10 small and light items. Like their fulfillment expenses, I think, are probably heavily subsidized to incentivize sellers to have items priced sub $10. And so margin wise, Amazon is not that bad. I'm very kind of bullish on Amazon. And I think what we see is, a lot of what we do in terms of social advertising, people kind of start on our D2C site and then they end up purchasing on Amazon. And rather than like trying to fight that, we should just embrace that process. And that's also partly why we're setting up this free trial program on our D2C site, is like, how can we, knowing that we're going to be omni-channel and customers are going to shop where they want to shop, like what can we do with D2C to make that a preferable way to shop for a certain type of customer, and not just make it an apples to apples thing with Amazon where, why would you not just always buy on Amazon when you have free 2-day shipping?
What does I've talked to so many different CPG brands and I've heard a different spectrum of kind of answers on this, but and it's okay if you don't want to answer it, but I'm curious, what does your path to profitability look like in a CPG brand like this, where you're talking about potentially taking the hit on 2 free packages and then you get a subscription, people build the habit. I think that's one of the biggest things with CPG is once people build that habit, they come to like anticipate, it becomes part of their life and you grow. But I'm curious, what is profitability? What are your goals with profitability with the brand?
Like with the brand in general, or with that kind of free trial offer?
With in general, just to like, how big would you want to be before? I think I just saw like Midday Squares. I just saw a post this morning from Midday Squares being like, and I think they're whatever 5 or 6 years in, and I think they maybe hit profitability kind of now. So it's in the CPG game, it's hard because you have to have such a strong ground game to get to that profitability. How do you think about it?
Yeah. We are not trying to be profitable right now. I think our like North Star metric that we want to hit in the near term is being, first order profitable on the e-com side. And so being able to hit that and then kind of build and use repeat to start to, cover more of our fixed expenses and ultimately move towards, net profitability. That's the goal. But I think right now it's like you mentioned, like new company, new product. The goal just has to be find the right customers and get them to try it. Like drive trial and then that will kind of lead to the repeat and habits that we're looking for.
And new category too. Like there are the smart sweets, there are the diabetic candies and things like that. But this sort of reduced better for you sugar option, I don't think there's many options out there like it. So you're kind of breaking ground in this new category ideas where people, diabetics aren't gonna buy it, but the people who love sour candies but want to make a better choice, it's an interesting market.
Yeah, exactly.
What are your goals with this bad boy? Are you going to be Allen 2.0, or I forget what was the name of the sour brand you mentioned right off the top? But what are your goals? Trolley, like eventually down the road here, 10 years.
Yeah, my goal is to be available for purchase like everywhere in the US. Like I want to walk into my local 7-Eleven, my local gas station and see Rotten products. I want to have a whole kind of host of super fun, reduced sugar candy products out there. And I want the brand to like pave the way for this idea that better for you, healthy, etc., can still be cool. That's what I'm hopeful for.
Are you going to keep with are we going to go lip sore, hot lips, and ingrown green toes or something like that? I was saying lemon lime maggots. I think you could get it. I think you could do some really good lemon lime maggots. You've got the worms. What's in your mind in terms of like other products in the suite?
We're working on a couple new products now. There's a lot we can do in the gummy space. We're trying to focus though on products that feel super innovative and net new for our category. So I can tell you this: our next product will not be a gummy bear.
Okay, no,
we're trying to do something different and a product people haven't seen before in the low sugar space. But beyond that, not yet ready to share exactly what that is.
Very cool. And I'm just curious, this is our like 50K question. If we were to give you 50K, would you be putting that directly into this new ad free trial platform that you're launching, or what would you be doing with the additional funds?
I would put this into Grubs, Gizzards, and Goo. I think, as you know, the paid social landscape has got a lot more challenging. I don't think that means it's dead by any means, and I think we're going to continue having success there. But I do think the standout brands of the future are the ones that are going to be able to make great, compelling, entertaining, organic social content. And so one of our like massive priorities is, figuring out how we're going to do that and how we'll show up in that way.
Very cool. How much do you have in the can for that? Like how much do you, like when you launch it, will you have already had like a season of it produced that you'll be kind of launching in sequence, or will you be producing it after the first few episodes, like every week?
We shoot it in like these big chunks. So we were out there for a whole week, which there's a lot of efficiencies from just doing it over and over. And in terms of cost, it's actually a lot more effective to just like shoot it all at once. So we have a ton of source footage now, and then the process is over time editing them into shorts. And that will be much more of an overtime process because we want to start getting these out there, seeing what works, analyzing different hooks, etc., so that we can change the way we're editing them. Because there's so much to play with on that side beyond just the source footage.
Super cool, man. So if people want to try these amazing sour worms, go to eatrotten.com. If they want to follow your journey, what platforms are you most active on as an entrepreneur?
I'm trying to be more active in sharing. I'm most active on LinkedIn. So find me on LinkedIn.
One last question too. I noticed I'm looking at your new packages. It's interesting that less sugar is one of the first things you see up top. Does it still tell you, because I think 60% less sugar is what it said originally. Have you kind of lessened the health claim a little bit, or why did you choose to just say less sugar versus the 60% call out?
Yeah, we made a couple packaging changes too. So the first one, was that simplifying the call outs on our packaging. So it's still 60% less sugar, and it says 60% kind of in smaller font below the less sugar. But we found that especially in like a retail environment, when you just glanced quickly at our packaging, and we had 2 badges on the front that both said stuff and one said 60%, it was just like you didn't get the takeaway. And we were like, what, at the end of the day, do you really care that there's 2 grams or 4 grams or are you just saying, hey, is this a healthier candy? Is this a candy with less sugar? And we feel that that's what the consumer is looking to understand. Is this regular candy or better for me candy? And so we just went with a large, less sugar call out. So it's just clearer and easier that that's what this is all about. The other change we made was we added a lot more of the product onto the front of the packaging. So I think we had just like 2 worms on it before. Yeah. And now we have like a big pile. So again, just specifically for retail, when you glance quickly at our package, how can we let you know in a millisecond what we're all about?
Nice, man. Well, I can't wait to taste them. Can't wait to follow your journey. And yeah, especially in it's really cool that all this stuff's kind of happening in the next 2 weeks. So we'll have to do a check-in in 6 months or so, and we'll just see how the rollout's gone. Because I think you got something here. They're a product that I really enjoy. Can't recommend them highly enough. Thanks for coming on today, Michael.
Cool. Thank you, Eric. This was fun.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you're not a subscriber to our newsletter, you can do that right now at directtoconsumer.co. I'm Eric Dick, and this has been the D2C Podcast. We'll see you next time.